Hi, I'm Julie.
And I'm Caleb. Welcome to Nursing You, the podcast where we redefine nursing in today's healthcare landscape. Join Julie and I as we step outside the box on an unconventional healing journey.
Together, we're diving deep into the heart of nursing, exploring the intricate relationships between caregivers and patients with sincerity and depth.
Our mission is to create an open and collaborative experience where learning is expansive and fun.
From the psychological impacts of nursing to the larger implications on the healthcare system, we're sparking conversations that lead to healing and innovation.
We have serious experience and we won't pull our punches, but we'll also weave in some humor along the way because we all know laughter is often the best medicine.
It is, and we won't shy away from any topic, taboo or not. From violence and drugs to family and love, we're tackling it all.
Our nursing knowledge is our base, but we will be bringing insights from philosophy, religion, science, and art to deepen our understanding of the human experience.
So whether you're a nurse, a healthcare professional, or just someone curious about the world of caregiving, this podcast is for you.
One last thing, a quick disclaimer before we dive in. While we're both registered nurses, nothing we discuss here should be taken as medical advice. Always consult with your doctor or a qualified healthcare provider for any medical concerns you may have. The views expressed here are our own and don't necessarily reflect those of our employers or licensing bodies.
So let's get started on this journey together. Welcome to Nursing You, where every conversation leads to a healthier world. There it is.
Hey, there it is.
There it is.
It's working.
Yeah, see? Things work. Things work.
Things work.
And things are always interesting. And we never know what's going to happen.
We have a surprise guest this week.
Yes. Surprise guest.
Mr. Rizz.
Mm-hmm.
So my son gave me, him and his buddy were giving me about a 30-minute education on slang terms. Like you hear them talking about, like, I didn't know what a gyat was. Do you know what a gyat is?
No.
No?
No.
It's a butt. Somebody's behind.
Okay.
And so, gyat. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know. I think it's like just a.
Is it short for something?
Well, I think it might be short for goddamn. Like.
Oh.
Like yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like you know when you see.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
I see that.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
That works.
And so like, because we see a hot chick walk by and you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. Okay.
And then Rizz is to flirt.
To Rizz.
You can Rizz somebody up. So
I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're Rizz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're the embodiment of Rizz. Like, come on.
Not present company
Not-
related.
yeah,
but
right,
yeah, I
right.
can see that.
That's so funny.
Oh, that's great. So for our audience members, Rizz worked in the ICU with Julie and I for a very long time. Many, many, many years.
Yeah. Remember that life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Rizz and I have stayed in touch over the years and kept up with our stories and he reached out this week, said he was going to be in town, and we scheduled this breakfast, and I didn't even think about it. I just woke up this morning. I was like, Rizz should just come on the pod. We can set it up. We can figure it out.
Totally.
You know, it's kind of funny how friendship works.
Yeah.
Right. It's actually built like, in the trenches of what we did as nursing before. And and when we just call each other and it's like, let's just catch up.
Instant.
We don't need to know what happens in every single thing about all our lives every day. But when we connect, it's like, let's meet immediate. Let's meet at the level we can meet and actually catch up on stuff and what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the friendships you kind of hold to esteem.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what Julie and I are always talking about. Just the nursing community has such a intrinsic bond because no one else understands what we've experienced.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So we just can automatically pick up.
Yeah.
Like I actually this weekend I was sitting with a nurse that I barely know. I just know that she's a nurse, and I made just a quippy little comment, and she was like, "Oh yeah."
It's the same experience that, because I've, it's also the same experiences as some of our, veterans have in terms of meeting each other in the clinics or something like that.
Yeah. Well, Rizz and I are both veterans.
Yeah.
So.
They relate to they relate to the commonality between our the things that we talk about, the language, and it's also what happens in the trenches. The everyday things that we did. Once you're taken out of that environment and you reconnect again, you share something.
Oh yeah,
yeah, you share something like that.
Yeah. It's a deep bond. Yeah,
it's a deep bond.
Yeah, definitely.
Same thing with nurses.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, nurses are the same, and cops and firefighters, like people. When you build your connection and the bond is formed, especially under kind of duress, or there are stressful situations that you go through together, it's like an energetic bond that just forms. And but you said you met that nurse you didn't really know that well. So even in that, the commonality, it's just an energetic connection that you can just,
it's
everybody.
It's experiential, like that. Yeah, there are certain things that only nurses can have context for, exactly. or veterans or cops or whatever. Right.
Yeah. So it is an amazing community, and I don't think we do enough within that community. And I wonder why. Like, is it because we're trying to take care of ourselves? And why don't we gather more? Why don't we I don't know.
So I was explaining the podcast to someone recently, and we were talking about mental health in nursing. They assumed I was talking about the patient.
Oh.
Actually, it was a nurse. It was that same nurse that I was just referencing. Her assumption was that we were talking about patient mental health, not nurse mental health.
Yeah.
And so it was and so that, because she was talking about schizophrenics, and I mean, she was talking about the violence that she's experienced in her career, and schizophrenia, all the different various forms of mental health. It does seem like, I mean, the hospital, there's either the mental health, people are really struggling with some form of mental health, like schizophrenia or bipolar or whatever they're dealing with. And then there are people who are in duress and not in their normal psychology. Their normal psychology is out the window. So we are predominantly dealing with people who are just not.
Oh, totally. Think about it. I mean, the open heart, the guy who comes in, he's 51, and he went to the cath lab, and now he needs open heart, and he's having literal panic attacks because he's got to stay in the hospital now. He can't go to work. He has all this stuff that he's got to do. I mean, you're not only dealing with the fragile, vessels of the heart that might, clog at any moment, but you're also dealing with his mental state, and or the wife's mental state. So, anything, or it might be mental health of the patient, but it also might be mental health of the family.
Correct.
You see that wife that comes in every single day, and that husband, and you're like, I mean, he's not well, but you're comforting her, and because she's tearful, and oh my God, during COVID, I mean, just all of that is, there is, I mean, mental health is predominant in caretaking as nurses, because it's always linked. You have the physical health and you have the mental health, and it's always linked.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about recently with the mimesis and reflection. The idea that we are reflecting humanity, and that if you look at the nursing population and the mental health crisis that exists, when you have this conversation, that's what comes up for me, that we're taking care of people who are, I mean, either psychotic and in some kind of manic phase, or they're experiencing an existential crisis, meaning that their existence is in question. And so we're taking that experiencing, and the nursing population is reflecting that in their own lives.
Yeah. God. Yeah, that's really true.
The thing too is, just by looking at every day the way that we work, okay, you can do the approaches if you're trying to fix a condition. I look at it as, this is the way I explain the behavior. Okay, nurses you see running around and taking care of their patients nonstop, and if you look at their behaviors, though, some of them can actually be showing signs of maybe obsessive compulsive behavior.
Nurses themselves.
Yeah. And I don't, it's I'm looking at that and it's like, okay, this is, but they are effective. They get this stuff done. Without those kinds of behaviors, the job doesn't get done. And then you see some of these people who are held back and are looking at, let's say, in a code situation, and are super analyzed. They tend to be phlegmatic, right? They tend to be
What's
analyzed.
Phlegmatic?
It's like you take it from the inside and you're internalizing things instead of being an outward person. And these are the best people that can analyze things and actually look at patterns of what the behavior is in order to get us to the goal that we need, saving the patient. Right? Instead of being the person that are actually injecting the drugs. These are people, hey, I'm seeing that there's a pattern within his, or his or her rhythm, and at the same time, the reaction of the drug. They tend to be the ones that are, at the background saying what we're doing is effective, what we're doing is not effective. And that's how the dynamic works usually during a code. You can go with algorithms if you want.
Sure.
But it's the thing that that you've seen, that you've learned when you had an experience for it. This is what happens. You program that into a body of knowledge in order to affect a result that you want.
Well, that's what, Julie and I have talked a lot about, kind of the flow state that you get into, where you're like, it's almost as though your brain is like floating above your head. You have all of this experiential knowledge, and you can see what everyone around you is doing and what they need. And you have your tasks that you're performing, and you got your hands working. You observe what is happening over here, and without even thinking, you see the thing that they need. You reach over, you grab it, you hand it over, and you don't even miss a beat. Nothing that you were doing was missed. And it's that, like, that's that bond that happens in those situations. We've all three been in those situations together. It's such an incredible experience. It's so powerful. It's a drug itself. Like that experience, you can't get that experience anywhere else. Yeah.
When you say that, hit me hard. I think that's part of really what kept me in for so long.
Yeah.
Is that it had to be some kind of chemical brain neurotransmitter addiction to working things out. And maybe why my life was kind of spiraling, but yet I was so effective at work.
Yeah. Well, it's because you're so at such a heightened level there, then everything else that you experience outside of that is
pitiful.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have any meaning.
It doesn't mean anything.
We talked about that multiple times. It's like we lose the meaning of things because we're so wrapped up in the higher thinking and the addiction of processing, and I guess you just gravitate towards that, and without even purposely, you know, your life is just a mess, which we've talked about that too. You know, it's just everything's a fucking mess.
Yeah.
It's like we developed that talent or that skill of isolating things that happen in the clinic and isolating things that happen in the home.
Oh yeah, we're
Right?
we're completely segmented.
We're
Yeah.
segmented that way. It is a coping mechanism basically for us to proceed through life so that there is less harm,
I believe that 100%.
right?
I believe that.
So, for example, like I said, if you bring it
But
back,
then like that's the
Mhm.
that's the drive,
Yeah.
is that it's self-protective,
Mhm.
but at some point it becomes self-destructive.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. And I look at it as more of a continuum, just like the same thing as mental health. A lot of the things that we see, what we define as mental health problems, mental health issues, are actually just a matter of describing the behavior to be used in order to get to the result. Um, you can see, like I said, I mentioned several different things already earlier, like OCD, or it is a fix to being detailed.
Mm.
You have to be detailed about what you do in order to be successful as a nurse.
Mhm.
Having an analytical mind that is misconstrued as being too withdrawn. Okay, but it's
Mhm.
actually a behavior of an analytical person that sees things around them and can actually try to predict outcomes, to a successful to being successful at a later time, so that you can actually do better for your patients,
Uh-huh.
patients benefit.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, you invest all of your being into doing that at work,
Mhm.
and then, because that's what matters, is the patient is what matters, and because they're going to die if you don't.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so you invest all of yourself into that, and then it's like the rest of your life doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
So you just you're like, I mean, I don't think anybody can understand the need to just the need for silence and things to be in place, in order,
Mhm.
that experience creates it, and it falls apart so fast for us.
You know,
It did for me.
oh God, that is so true. That just makes me reflect on my drinking.
Hmm.
And I think part of that was quieting, when I wasn't at work, because, I was a responsible drinker.
Mhm.
I didn't ever drink before I went to work. I rarely drank when I got off in the morning. But the nights that I didn't go to work, but I feel like it was to quiet some of the chatter,
Uh-huh.
Yes.
to go to a place that was like, whew, like, you could just, like, a letdown.
Let go. You can let go.
Because you go home and you would think that that's a letdown or a let go of the hospital setting, which it is. But now you're in this whole other role. So, like, you're the mom, and you're you have lots of things to do, and you're home, and you're a wife, and taking care of all that, and trying to take care of yourself. And it's like, are the skills all used up? That's how it felt.
Mhm.
Just your life force is used up.
Yeah.
Your energy is used up. Yeah.
And so to prevent some of that, like, feeling of just irritation and inability to cope, for me, drinking was soothed that,
Mm-hmm.
like Carafate.
It kind of slows things down a little bit to kind of make sense of it all, because our brains are struggling to make sense of all the input that that the world is actually basically bringing to our doorstep all the time.
Yeah.
And in order to make sense of it, you got to slow it down. Alcohol actually might do the trick. Unknowingly, that's because you're conditioned basically to what I mean. Think about it. Why do you reach out for a drink?
Yeah.
And why that drink? Because at one time or another, you learn that when I drink this beverage, it actually gets to calm me down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's conditional. Conditional. Now, there, in a way, that's actually a good thing. But when it gets to be habitual and happens every day,
yeah,
after a certain time, it gets to be a dependence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
sure.
that's sometimes how I look at things too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because drinking just in itself is not bad. Like going to a bar or having a glass of wine, if in my life, like if I could have it, that's what I would do.
Mhm.
But because it became such dependence for me, it like I'm not able to do that. And so I feel though, if I would have learned some of these other ways to kind of let down, whether it be breathing, meditation, walking, grounding, journaling, I mean, all of the things that I am doing now, if I could have done some of those back then maybe I wouldn't have become so dependent on the alcohol. And then it could have just been an occasional thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, that's true. Like, but you would have, like, that's the thing. Like the nursing experience is such an extreme experience, and if you would have maintained that moderate lifestyle, like maybe you would have been marginally healthy. You never would have dealt with the stuff that you've dealt with and become the person that you are.
That is very true.
So
for my path, that's the path it took.
Yeah, I'm thankful for that part. That if that relationship would have worked out in just the right way, that I would have continued doing everything the way that I was doing. Maybe I stay in that low level chronic malaise and I never get out of it, and I never actually like find the courage to stand up for my own life.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is probably a better path.
Yeah.
100%
for me. Yeah.
Like I never would have been as self-reflective. I never would have confronted the issues that I had to confront ever.
Right.
So for that, it's the difference between a human being, like in a passive sense, human being, and being human. Like I can actually be more human now. I still obviously have tremendous amount of growth to achieve, but I don't think that ever ends. I don't, there's different levels. You can
it's a journey. And I feel like we both are solidly on that journey.
For sure.
Like I don't feel like it really ever ends, because things will continue to arise, situations, experiences, people you meet, different things. Like it's always a journey, but I feel like we're solidly on the journey.
Yeah.
Getting on that journey was very, very hard. And so sometimes for some people, it takes something quite drastic to kind of turn that light on.
Yeah. Like some people are just blessed with like a good environment, good genetics, whatever it is, they get to have this, innate wisdom to move through life in a way that is healthy and produces wholeness within themselves and everyone around them. And then there's those of us that have to, go through the trenches.
Yeah.
So,
I just listened to our episode about the fecal transplant. So it just released. I think it's number 11. Rizz, we talked about fecal transplant because Caleb has done a lot of thought work around C. diff and a deeper meaning of what that means in our microbiome. So we kind of talked about that on the podcast.
It's just a mental exercise.
It's a mental exercise, right? We have no scientific backup data.
Yeah.
All you got to do is Google it. But it made me think even more, because then I came across an article or something that I sent Caleb that was how we actually are absorbing the energy and whatever it is from the environments that we are in. And
so it correlated with what I was saying.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yeah. And he was a professor or like a scientist or something. And it was from a long time ago, like maybe in the 90s. I feel like he was at a chalkboard, like talking about something, but he was basically saying that, there's not a lot of studies because studying energy and dynamics like that is very difficult to replicate that in like a research format. But if you just think about it, all the experiences that we have witnessed, been involved in, had our hands in, leaned on the bed to, hugged, the poop, the pee, the crying, the blood of someone else, like that
covering you. It's
that
crazy.
Go. I mean, there's really no barrier there. Like that has to have some kind of bearing on nursing. What do you think about that, Rizz?
Like accidentally, comes to mind, accidentally picking up some a patient's portable potty.
Uh-huh.
I was gonna reposition it somewhere. I just picked it up, and body mechanics. You always think about body mechanics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I picked it up, didn't even think about it, and put it on my body. Well, the patient just used it.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh,
there was.
Yeah, right there.
I was in disbelief right there. Okay, so you just did that. What now? And that morning I woke up with, I wanted to look the best I could. I was wearing my all white scrubs.
No.
But I'm at that point internalizing, thinking, okay, my phlegmatic self thinking, analyze this. How are you going to do this now? Do you now switch into your OCD and panic, okay, of what you just did because of the microbes of what you just did?
Mm-hmm.
The microbes that just touched you, or do you go into
objective,
stop right there and stop everything and just put it down and just go for the bathroom? What do you do?
Yeah,
it's that.
I mean, you don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice. But the thing is, life comes at you. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it was my grandma that said this before. Life comes at you, and then you cope.
Mm.
Okay, you have to bring yourself to equilibrium at that point, and everything is a decision. What do you do now?
Mm-hmm.
You just had this. What do you do now? Right? So I forgot what I did, but I'm here. I'm alive.
Right.
I'm fine.
But
right?
You said something. You said something that we talked about in the last episode. You said the micro, like your analytical brain immediately went to the threat.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the filth of it.
Yeah.
Like this is the difference between someone who isn't working in this setting, like just somebody that is a normal person in the public that gets, has an exposure to shit.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't thinking, they're thinking gross. Yeah. It's just gross. We have this deeper penetrating knowledge of all of the threats that exist in that. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's the innate disgust, obviously. Mm-hmm. But, we were talking about how the nurse has so many unseen threats that they're dealing with in their psychology.
Yeah.
Our lives are always being threatened.
Yeah. It's
at the smallest level, and then at the human level where people are actually calling in death threats on us.
Correct.
Or and that's swinging at us.
Just like the way I could look at this too, explain it is that when I've lived here in the US since I was 19. That's back in 1988. I'm kind of aging myself, but I came home probably about 20 years later on with my wife at that time, and she was like, "Rizz, I don't get you. We decided to ride on one of these public utility what do you call this, buses, right? And my behavior was, I was like this the whole time. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why you didn't used to be. We grew up. We were on buses and we were on what they call jeepneys before, handing on to everything and not having a care. I mean, I don't get you. Why are you acting like this where your hand is always like this now?
Mm-hmm.
I thought about it. I said, well, you know what? I said, it's kind of one of those things where you kind of have more knowledge now that you know that if you don't do this, you're touching everything.
Mm-hmm.
You're touching this that could have been touched by that person. And that person, I just saw him earlier do this
Mm-hmm.
and did this and held on to the stuff. Right?
Yeah.
And now I'm going to hold on to that. Same thing. Another person did this and there was a pole that he held on to the jeepneys that we had, right? To stabilize yourself.
Right.
I was like this, and I was like really risking it that I would fall off. I would not hold on to that pole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I said, I saw that guy do this too, and he did that. He went like this.
Yeah.
Did this. And I said, now you want me to hold on to that?
Yeah. No.
Okay. Now that conversation was all in my head.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, I
Sure,
did not explain it to her because I knew she wouldn't understand.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
As a nurse, we understood
Yeah,
what
yeah.
that is
Oh,
because of microbiology.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at that.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
It's always self-preservation.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But again, it goes back to, okay, so what do you do now?
Mm-hmm.
So we're dealing with people that are in an existential crisis, and exposing ourselves, and we are in an existential crisis as well. We're managing our existential crisis. We're managing all of the threats that are coming at us in patient care.
Yeah. While managing patient care.
While managing the person in existential crisis.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some people look at it as a threat in everyday lives we have as nurses, but it could also be, it's just what happens. How do you cope with it? How do you deal with
So
it?
I actually think this is one of the reasons why I love woodworking so much. It's filthy.
That's right.
It's so filthy.
Uh-huh.
Like I it's just, I'm dusty and I'm dirty and I'm sweaty and it's real. And well, actually, I have actually a pretty profound realization, one that I think in the end will be proven entirely accurate. I believe this 100%. One of the things that I found, I used to have a stereo in my shop, and I would listen to the radio, and I would listen to I had speakers all around the shop, and I would listen while I was working. And in that season, I was always sick. I always had sinus infections.
Mm-hmm.
And when I switched to over-ear headphones, I stopped getting sinus infections. So the wood is cellulose. It's getting into my ear, and then the bacteria is growing from the cellulose. It's feeding on it.
Right.
So I was getting sinus infections from that. And they stopped because I stopped supplying.
Yeah.
I stopped supplying. So the thought is, we'll wear masks over our mouth and nose, and we'll wear eye protection, but we never cover our ears. I think the masks will eventually cover our ears. Somebody's gonna prove this and validate the data. But it is like in alternative health, one of the things that I've learned is that something like 90% of bacterial and viral infections are incubated in the ear. So they drop down the tubes into your throat and then get up your nose and cause sinus infections and all of it. So I think that eventually the data will show that ears need to be covered as well.
That's why I wear.
That's my prediction.
That's why I wear earbuds when I take a bath.
Really?
Earbuds.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Okay. Once you're going, what happens whenever water goes into your ear?
Mm-hmm.
It's a portal for infection, right?
Well, see, I use hot water to clean my ears.
Good. But what if your environment for your ear is not the same as the environment that water has? What if your water has microbes that you don't know? Go in, if it's outside, it's fine.
Sure.
But I take a shower. When I take a shower, I usually put like earbuds And when I do, the reason why I do that is because it plugs my ears from getting water in there. Because I noticed I was having a cold too. Every time I I take a bath every day. That night, there's like this humming. There's not the humming, but it's like an echo. But when I wear earbuds and keep the water out, it tends to
see. I use hot water and I clean. That's how I get the wax out. Yeah, this coming into a personal hygiene pod.
But it's a practical. I mean, from a practical point of view.
See, I started using water because to wash my ears out after whenever I'm in the shop, I do a full facial irrigation. I irrigate my nose, I irrigate my eyes, and I irrigate my ears. I do the ears in the shower, and I really don't get sick from it anymore.
Well, I mean, that just shows you how permeable our whole entire body is. Our skin, our eyes, our nose, during COVID, I mean, yes, we would wear like eye protection if you were going to get splashed. Like there's clearly, droplets that could get into your eyes during certain situations. But during COVID, they were like, you don't even have to get splashed. Those droplets, and that is just in the air. It gets in your eyes. That's why we have to wear goggles or whatever, why we had to do that, because it was like a droplet situation. Even a patient with flu, like we didn't wear goggles. We just wore a mask so we didn't get it in our nose and mouth. But so now our eyes too, and our ears, and your skin. I mean, you're just permeable. I mean, if you are around whatever you are around, you are going to pick up, whether it's energy, particles, microbes, skin. I mean, think of all the patients that you took their socks off.
Oh my gosh, the snowflakes.
Like, poof.
Yep.
Or they'd been in bed so long that you take off the sheet and it's just like all over the floor. Skin.
Yeah.
You don't think you're getting, and I'm not wearing a mask in that room. He didn't have any infectious things. I've got gloves on, but I didn't wear a mask.
Oh, how much DNA do we have rolling around our bodies?
That's what I mean. DNA,
so much.
DNA carries energy and frequency, and because DNA can be changed and altered. So how could it not be affecting us?
Yeah.
That's what I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I also noticed some of these nurses. I said they're very effective at what they do. What they do is once they go into the patient's room, that's when they do their greeting. Hi, my name is Rizz. My name is blah blah blah. How are you? Blah blah. They do their socializing first. Isolate that time after they do that, and they prepare the patients before they actually do the care. And tell you what, we'll talk later, and let's go ahead and take care of you. They stop talking at that time. And then they take care of the patients. Why is that? I said, I noticed that, and they're doing that. And I said, it's a processed behavior again. As soon as they do that, they keep their mouths closed.
Oh.
Notice this with some of the Filipino nurses that you see that. Yeah. A lot of them are very talkative, but once they're doing their care, they're not talking the whole time. They're doing the care, and then they step back, and then they start talking again. That way, they're actually shielding their mouths from getting, getting input.
Wow. Yeah. God, I never thought about that, but it really is. Huh.
It's a process change. In order to affect something that you want, you change the process itself of how you give your care, and that's how you affect it the way you want it to happen.
Like an adaptation. We're constantly adapting to the situation so that, bottom lining, we can stay alive, basically, or then step it up. Another would be like to stay sane, or to stay working, to stay, who you are, constantly adapting yourself. And a lot of that then turns just maladaptive, really. Not necessarily in your line of work, not necessarily at the bedside, because we've all have perfected that, but it's like the cutoff is there. That doesn't really happen outside of that path.
Yeah. And some people may also think, somebody actually asked me, for Rizz, did you go to informatics after your clinical nursing because you got tired of taking care of sick people? No, I said it's not really that, but it's just, I guess, part of the reason why I decided to go into that field was because I saw myself as being injured. I looked at my age, okay? Back when I was about 20s, okay? I said, I was strong. I was doing things. We were lifting patients. I was, doing the things we needed to do. And at that time, I kind of looked ahead. I said, okay, at 50, will I still be doing this kind of work? Right? So at that time, I said, you better start planning. Go, aside from going into you've already done your education. A lot of people are happy, and don't get me wrong, a lot of people are happy with staying with what they're doing as a floor nurse or an ICU nurse. We've seen one of the greatest nurses that we know who works nights do the stuff that she did as a nurse, as an ICU nurse, and retired from that job. Did the best. I said, that's great, but the thing is, I want to be longer than that. I want to impact nursing a little bit more than that. Thing about nurse informatics, this thing came up and said, what? I said, I looked at an opportunity again and said, okay, by this time I'm gonna be done. I can continue my nursing, do the care I do, which I really enjoy. I still miss it actually, but by that time my back's not gonna be that strong anymore. My joints are gonna start deteriorating. What do you do? So I embarked on that journey basically to go into nurse informatics, knowing that you can affect patient care outcomes that way. So years later, I'm now 55. I'm now 55, and that's what I'm doing. But I haven't stopped. I'm still trying to get into education parts again, going for my doctorate later. I think it's part of my what do you call this? The programming again. What are you going to be doing next? And I guess my point is, we tend to act upon our experiences and plan things ahead for what we need to be doing. And for me, it's not to get out of taking care of patients about the disease itself. It's not that. It's just that I will be effective behind the screen. COVID happened. When COVID happened, what was I doing? I was continuing to work still because I could work from home. Right? I still did the things I needed, but I was still affecting nursing care as part of it. Right? Now it comes back full circle. COVID subsided, right? In 2021, right? The effects of COVID, 2021, 2023, something like that. And we went back into working as nurses again, open society, just like like before.
21.
You gotta okay. So I said, evolve. What's gonna happen now? An opportunity came up.
Talk about how nursing informatics and doing that type of nursing, how does nursing informatics impact like nursing care? And what are some of the changes that you've seen over the years that you've been in it? Because you've been in it a long time now.
Yeah. I started, let me see. I wasn't going to be a nurse. And I never started as 5-year-old guy thinking, oh yeah, when I grow up, I want to be a nurse.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not the guy's dream.
No, that's not the guy's dream. You don't want to be. Everybody told you you're good. Rizz, with the knowledge that you have and the aptitude that you have, you can be a doctor if you wanted to. But it kind of evolved because the thing is, when I saw that the lifestyle for the doctor has to go through, it's just not my thing. You're programmed, your head is programmed to, you study the sciences, you do this, you do that. But yeah, I'm also Asian, by the way. And the Asian thing is, you're going to be a doctor or something else, or an engineer maybe, right? But I was, you were kind of programmed to be a doctor. And as life went through, I was in physical therapy before because that was the gateway to the U.S. at that time. I was an immigrant. Honest to goodness immigrant. Came here when I was about 19, and at that time I had already 2 years of physical therapy school and I only had 2 more years to go. And here my grandma's going, you need to come over now because your petition came up. You got to go. So I said, okay, I'm not going to kick and scream like I planned to, but I'm going to go ahead and go. So I went. As soon as I got there, I wanted to go ahead and, continue what I was doing. I saw a little bit of what I said, okay, this is kind of interesting, because a lot of the nurses at that time that was friends with my, who were friends with my grandma were nurses. A lot of people who were friends with her. And they kind of showed me the opportunities. Hey, you can do so much with nursing, actually. One was an ICU nurse, another one was doing something else, something like that, And I went into that thinking, I do not have a need to go into physical therapy anymore. To be at that time was the ticket to come over here quickly, right? So I came in and said, none of that. It just didn't touch, my soul at that time.
Right.
And actually, to be honest with you, I know it sounds cliche, but you had a calling.
So we talked about it so many times.
Yeah. So I went into nursing and kind of, did it that way. And so I basically saw the possibilities of what you can do. You can do, you can use usual bedside nursing. You can do ICU nursing. You can do just about everything in terms of industrial nursing, community health, and all that. So I thought, wow, I'd like to do all of that. My main thing was to do mental health or behavioral health nursing at that time. At that time, it wasn't called behavioral nursing yet. It was called mental health nurse.
Right.
Yeah. I said, that's what I'm going to be. But again, it evolved, and it goes into the
why mental health? Why was that what you wanted to be?
I guess my sister was a psychologist. Okay, and a lot of the I had to do a lot of coping as well with my family background at that time that you had to cope with, and a lot of that was done through introspection. A lot of that was done through, again, describing the behavior of why you are. Didn't even know I was doing this until later. So I started doing that, and then decided, that's where I want to go.
Wow,
that was my choice. But I even did what do you call this? Of course, all of us did maternity health.
Yeah.
That was my worst curse.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
I never want to deliver another baby.
Exactly. I mean, I came to a point where the head nurse, the circulating nurse was like, excuse me, young man, are you gonna be throwing up right here in my OR? You better get out of here right now. That's what she said. I remember that well because I was doubled over with my hands on my knees doing like this, hyperventilating, because you know what? The sight of the placenta threw me off.
Oh yeah.
Veins and everything stayed me out. As soon as I was like this. And I said, well, I guess I'm not gonna go into that nursing. Process of elimination. Right? And then I got into ICU nursing. Got into ICU nursing, got into electrophysiology nursing. This was in a span of 30 years that I did this. And then I did agency nursing, which was you find out at 5:45 in the morning where you're going to go, and you go to the hospital in Kansas City within a 45-mile radius.
Yeah.
That was a great opportunity because I got to see more of what nursing had to offer. And that also showed me the different ways the hospitals did in order to give care.
Yep.
Right? So I'm seeing all this process, getting this input of how this hospital does something different. This hospital does something, this hospital does something different too. That again, it's hard work because nursing is hard work to start with.
Right.
But I looked at it as this is all input. This is all the learning you're gonna have to do for something bigger at a later time. So did that for 10 years and then got back into technology, went into electrophysiology nursing, which is basically putting people to sleep. Yeah. Sodium pentothal. That's what we did. Yeah, to put people to sleep under the direction of the cardiologist. And we did that. I said, now I learned that it's not where you put them to sleep, it's how you wake them up. Is the issue.
Sure.
Yeah, that's more important. Waking them up is the issue. Yeah. You learn so many things in these days, And then after that, um, as I was doing this, I was already going heavy into my nurse informatics position. I suddenly decided I need to be grounded because the money wasn't really that good with that kind of nursing because you get sent up a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So I went back to ICU nursing, and that kind of put things back together. Okay, so now this is how it gives you a bit different perspective of what you saw before and brings it back the things that you were doing now.
Yeah.
So did that for a while. After that, I finished. I was plucked. I was finished yet. I was still in school. I got plucked out because somebody said, "Hey, you seem to be knowledgeable about
Informatics.
informatics, or not just informatics, but charting."
Yeah, charting. Yeah.
I always found something wrong. Hey, can we do this better? Or I looked at the process, and this is not part of the scope of practice that we know. This puts it at risk for scope of practice. Those little comments that I made apparently made an impression in one of the corporate nurse informaticists. She said, "Why don't you come work for us?" So I got plucked into working for another company.
Oh, wow.
At that time, who handles that hospital, and did that since 2011 forward into 2017 or 2016. That's where I stopped. Well, that's where I finished my my degree. It took me a long time to do a master's. So once I did that, I said, now, okay, so now you have the title. You know how these things work. You've already been working as a nurse informatics for a while. Now you just get to have a title to do it. So that's when I got the title. And this opportunity came up to work with a corporate, one of the biggest corporate entities in Kansas City, and started working there and working specifically more about tech itself. It was another experience again that brought me to knowing how they looked at us in terms of what their goals are, what the driving force is with what they do. Starting to realize that a lot of the currency that we have with the delivery of care nowadays is also driven by another entity called data. Once you get the data, that is now a currency that could be used in order to leverage themselves into making it a more profitable private entity, right? So did that for a while, for about 3 years. Got laid off. This is during COVID. I got laid. And then that's how I, you gotta be looking, right? So I looked again, landed another opportunity. That's why I started. Okay, this will, aside from other personal things that were happening at that time, I said, and I never thought I would leave Kansas City. I always thought Kansas City will be where I will now die. And I even had plans of where I would be, where my body would be plotted somewhere. But all of that got erased because of another opportunity.
Yeah.
So I went for a little while to go to Texas, middle of nowhere, Texas, and work as a nurse informaticist there. It was mostly outpatient stuff, right? So I did that for a while, and then another opportunity came up and said, okay, now within that reach that you have for West Texas, another opportunity came up to work in San Francisco. The way I looked at it was, why would you want to do that? One, it's expensive there. You hear all the things that are in San Francisco. I said, will you survive there? That was the biggest question I had. What I said, what's your pool? I said, well, it's a new outlet for starting out fresh. Second, I'm not gonna lie, the money's good because the quality pay over there is a little bit different. So I said, we'll talk about that too. But more of the driving issue for me was, you're gonna be a small fish in a bigger pond. Again, you're learning about how they operate and how they affect change across not just a nation, but the whole world, because out the reach is pretty far. And that's how I landed where I'm at right now. function, doing nurse informatics, a lot of people think, or when I introduce myself to patients, I'm a nurse informaticist. And what is that? That's the first thing. And the thing is, I was curious because it wasn't only the reaction I got from patients, it was also the same information or the same reaction I got from fellow nurses.
Mm.
Oh, really? What does that do? I said, because they thought they thought I was an outside employee. I said, no, I work with you guys. And yeah, this is what I do. Ah, all right. So everything behind what we're using is what you guys are impacting. Yeah. Think about that impact.
It's big.
Think about that impact. You're actually helping make sure that it's the knowledge that you got from way back in 1991 until now, all that experience comes up so that you can use it in order to predict outcomes later on, and it's still doing that, right? So again,
and what on a practical level, like, so we're talking about charting systems. We're talking about like how you move through biological systems, cardiac, neuro, pulmonary, all the different, you're looking at the entire head to toe assessment in that process. What explain how you are impacting our lives through that process.
Yeah, well, one thing, you see a chart, you think it's, a lot of people think that it's paper. You get the paper form that we used to do before, you put it into a machine and it pops out as a form, right? There's actually a lot of things behind that form that happens. Let's say you decide that you click on, this person is an 89-year-old. Stop there. When you say 89-year-old, that is already grabbing data. This 89-year-old needs what? Will need help after the hospitalization. This person already has information or has a condition based on this age that you're already expecting will happen. This 89-year-old also has supplies that needs to be made available to them during this hospital stay. All of that is already permeating through the system itself and anticipating the care that this patient needs. What I and a lot of nurse informaticists will do, or a lot of people will do, is program that so that it goes to the right department. Right? Admission kits. What did this 89-year-old need for this admission? It makes it ready for that, so that the time that you have, it also predicts what kind of supplies will be needed to be stocked on an ICU. It also predicts what kind of care plans. Biggest thing is your care plans.
Yeah, the care plans.
Once you pick your care plans, it's already pre-programmed for you. You didn't even think about it. It all comes from one entity, 89-year-old.
And that's kind of what I'm thinking about is the application of AI to that idea. So you've got 89-year-old, and then you've got your gender, and then you've got other data. So the more data that you enter, the AI can predict, and is it possible that in the future of charting, like you put in that data and then it will anticipate what problems you're going to have. So like right now when I chart, I have bundles that I activate that, okay, this person, let's just say we just did a carotid. So I've got a carotid bundle that I'm going to activate. And then it's got all of the assessment needs that I could, all of the assessment needs that are specific to a carotid. You got your A line, you got all your vascular checks, neuro checks, all the things. So will AI, when you put in more data than just 89 years old, is the AI going to be able to just intuit and pull down that assessment, and it's just going to be just a fluid process? It'll anticipate everything that we need to document. Will we even be documenting?
I would say and more.
What? Okay, explain. That's really what I'm asking.
Just everything that you said and more.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode.
Remember, the conversation doesn't end here.
Keep the dialogue going by connecting with us on social media posted in the links below, or by visiting our website.
Together, let's continue to redefine nursing and shape a brighter future for those we care for. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and keep nurturing those connections.
And don't forget to be kind to yourself.